all over the world face their own peculiar form of challenges, some of which include social isolation, economic insecurity, emotional trauma, loneliness, and many more. Many widows are denied inheritance and property rights, forcing them into poverty. They often experience discrimination, stigma, and marginalization, making them vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. Some widows also bear the burden of raising their children alone with limited access to education and health care. In some cultures, they are subjected to harmful practices such as widow cleansing and forced marriage. These plights perpetuate a cycle of suffering, denying widows the dignity and justice they deserve. Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. Today, we are clamoring for justice for widows. I'm Lydia Sampson. By default, couples are meant to work together to build a family and create wealth. Unfortunately, death is inevitable. The death of a spouse changes everything. In this report, our correspondent takes a look at widows, their challenges and plight.
Widows are women who lost their husbands to death, and unfortunately, instead of receiving empathy from members of the public, the opposite appears to be the case, as they face numerous challenges that stem from cultural practices, legal gaps, economic hardship, and societal stigmatization. Dr. Jumai Amadu is a social crusader for women emancipation in Nigeria. She speaks on some of the key issues widows encounter.
The issue about widow is global, but just like in Africa, we have some peculiarities about how widows are being treated. Number one, a widow might be dispossessed of her husband's property, not minding if these properties were collectively acquired through their businesses or any other form. Widows are melted with some kind of treatment that are tied to cultures that ordinarily are inhuman. And you find that most of these practices are melted to widows by women in most cases because they believe that is their culture, they have to uphold their culture.
Many believe widows are also ignorant of their legal rights or lack access to legal resources to protect themselves from property grabbing and other injustices. This is coupled with the fact that laws that protect widows' inheritance rights are often not effectively enforced.
When you talk about the plight of widows in Nigeria, there is no gainsaying that a lot of widows go through so much, even though there are widows and there are widows. But those that I would rather concentrate on today are those who are sadly in the majority. Cultural practices, religious practices, family backgrounds, lack of strength economically are some of the issues that subject widows to stigmatization, to maltreatment, and all manner of things. The bottom line for me here is that how can we see that as a country we address some of these issues?
There are also issues of lack of empowerment, leading to economic hardship being faced by women on account of losing a husband who hitherto was the breadwinner. This situation has ripple effects on the family, especially the women, thereby leading to vulnerability, especially in societies where women have limited access to employment and financial resources. Widows therefore struggle to provide for themselves and their children.
I see the issue of widowhood in Nigeria and the burden they bear as cumbersome. To start with, a woman dies. The husband is not accused of being the one who killed her. In fact, on the day the wife is being buried, the friends and brothers who arrange a small girl that they want the girl to pacify him because of the pain of the loss. But the moment a woman's husband drops dead, family or friends or relations begin to accuse the woman that she killed the husband. And my question is always, the woman killed the husband so she can suffer or so she can raise the children alone? I don't get it. This stigmatization on women is too much.
And it's something that is not new to human nature. Right from the creation of life, it is normal that people will lose their spouses. Either as men they become widowers, and then women become widows. But because of the cultural variance we have in Africa, widows are more, and then they tend to be incapacitated after the death of their husbands, due to the fact that mostly it's because of illiteracy, low education, cultural differences. It affects widows at the demise of their husbands. Now, I also agree that our cultures, some sections of the country do a lot more to affect the background, to affect the psyche, to affect how widows are treated after their husbands are no more. But
More these cultures may not be as bad as we are looking at it, depending on the individual. But generally, when you say woman should drink the water that has been used to bath her dead husband's body, it's back to me. You don't know what may have killed this man. My auntie was a victim of these particular instances. For example, when you now have people saying that woman should sleep with this man in a room all through the night, you and dead body in the same room, is bad. One of our widow recounted how she was made to pass through this during our last year's event that we talked about some widow story. There was a book that we wrote, Right from the Ashes, which talk about basically things that these widows have passed through, how they were able to live above the circumstances. So these are some of the things that are very bad. Dispossessing them of their properties, making them to go through some cultural practices that are inhuman as far as I'm concerned.
Similarly, widows often lack access to adequate health care and social services, particularly in rural areas. They often face challenges in accessing education for their children or support for their own well being. The loss of a spouse, these respondents say, can have profound emotional impacts, and some widows may suffer from depression, anxiety, or social isolation that can exacerbate their issues.
If you're a polygamist, it becomes all the more of essence that you do certain things to make sure that in your absence, a lot of things that families are subjected to are, things that they should not be going through, having been traumatized by losing the breadwinner in most cases in the family.
Addressing these challenges, experts say, require a multifaceted approach that includes strengthening laws to protect widows' inheritance rights and ensuring their enforcement. Legal awareness campaigns and providing access to legal aid can empower widows to assert their rights.
and I feel government has to do more in the area of sensitization, awareness campaigns, especially to those places where government has identified or is still identifying have issues where women are marginalized, are treated badly, are made to go through inhuman treatment because of the death of either of their spouse. I think it's prevalent in southern Nigeria because of our strong ties to our heritage and our gene.
Promotion of education and economic empowerment programs for widows can also enhance their financial independence and reduce vulnerability. Skills acquisition training and microfinance initiative can be channeled towards empowering them.
What I think should be done is, yes, I know there are cultures and tradition, but these cultures and traditions should wear a human face, because these are daughters of people, daughters of somebody. Now, the man that died, or his brothers, would they want the daughters of their brothers treated in same manner? And the one that beats me so much is the fact that the Umuadas will carry this thing on their head. They will shave the woman's head, with some with broken bottles, some with sharp knife or sharp objects. The woman is made to go through so much. And I begin to ask myself, is it really worth it getting married? Should I not just go to a sperm bank, pay, collect sperm, do IVF, and have my child, to avoid this kind of things at the end of the day?
Deepening awareness, in addition to other efforts about the rights and dignity of widows within communities, can help reduce stigma and harmful practices. To this end, engaging religious and community leaders in advocacy efforts are also vital for promoting acceptance and support.
We try as much as possible to see how through advocacy, and most civil society organizations are beginning, we've been doing it for long, but the intensity is increasing by the day, and thankfully government through the VAP Act also is part of what advocacy is being done, that nobody should be deprived of their rights, and widows' rights is their fundamental human right. If one husband is dead, the woman should be allowed to mourn her husband properly and see how she can build her life around her children based on what it is her husband have left behind for them to have a good life.
We also need to look at the place of legislation. We need to see that we make laws in this country that will kind of extricate women from some of the pains that they normally go through having lost a spouse. And hence, as far as I am concerned, there's a lot that needs to be done. It has to be a stakeholder approach. Legislation, that is law, the clergy needs to start preaching. We need to know that it can happen at any time. Nothing is certain, nothing is guaranteed. It's just a function of now and then.
Our respondents are emphatic that addressing these issues holistically and empowering widows through social support, Nigeria can enable widows improve their lives and restore their dignity, as well as promote gender equity and social justice for all.
Thank you, Stephen Wokolo. Everyone will die someday. The question is, will you want your widow or widower treated inhumanly? Well, this question sets the tone for Thomas Obetere's report on mitigating injustice to widows, how it requires a multifaceted approach that will address the economic, social, and cultural barriers they face, the need for governments and policymakers to enact and enforce laws that protect widows' right to inheritance, poverty, and social security.
Experts and most widows are of the opinion that to protect widows' rights, government at all levels and policymakers must enact and enforce laws that secure widows' rights to financial property inheritance and social security rights. These include ensuring access to pension benefits and ownership of other vital assets.
That way, widows' children, widows themselves, they can have access to education, they can have funds for micro and small businesses, they can have opportunity for self-development, they can be exposed to entrepreneurship, various experience skills and businesses that are available, and then they can aspire. They can aspire for any position.
Okay, when my husband he leave me 14 years ago now. He died with motor accident. Since then, I no get hope. My hope finish. I get 4 children. Then I no get anything. As thief come thief my machine. My hope don't finish. But now I feel my hope back.
These widows have gone through a lot, having to face their landlords, having to face their children's proprietors, having to face their family members, dragging for property, the patrimony of their husband. It's a lot stress.
The women should be, I think we should look towards the aspect of protecting their rights as women. Okay, if you protect their rights as women, protect their rights as widows, by allowing them to inherit whatever their spouses left behind, this will help them to take care of their children, take care of themselves. I think we can start from there.
And then we encourage them to learn a skill, because having a skill will also help them to be self-reliant and self-sufficient.
They added that the need for effective legislation remains crucial, as without legal protection, widows remain vulnerable to exploitation and poverty. The laws, they reiterated, must not only be enacted, but judiciously enforced.
And there are some activists in the National Assembly, the both chambers. They should come up with a bill. We can provide technical input for that, and then we'll have a better society.
Government and policymakers should develop policies that will support women, that will improve, the lives of the women and help reduce how culture play on them, how culture downplay their personalities. And
We want government to help widows because they are suffering. Most of them have 7 children, 8 children. Nobody to help them. So if government can help them, I'll be very happy.
Our respondent also noted that community-based initiative can play a critical role in challenging harmful traditional practices and the stigmatization of widows.
Yeah, they also face harmful traditional practices, such that when they lose their husbands, they are subjected to, at times, forceful attempt to swear with the water washed from the body of their husband. They are asked to stay indoors and wear a particular cloth, either white or black, for 1 year, 6 months, and 3 months, as the case may be. It varies due to some cruel traditional practices. And these are abominable practices that must be stopped because they are not in any way helpful to the victims or the society. Our country, Nigeria, has gone beyond those kind of practices.
It's a clear clue that some widows here face a lot of challenges, having to get their husband's property upturned by the family because of what the traditions say. Some of them having to barb their hair, some of them having to do so many cultural things that demean their nature.
So I urge people that are stigmatizing widows to actually desist from it and turn from it to protect their rights and also encourage them as widows to feel free as other humans.
Some, on the other hand, advocated public awareness campaigns, education programs, and peculiar support groups as essential in changing societal attitudes towards widows. These efforts, according to them, will create a safe environment where widows thrive, share their experiences, and work in solidarity.
First of all, we'll understand that widows in this part of the world are usually faced with challenges that tend to keep their self-esteem low because of a lot of other things, cultural practices, harmful widowhood practices. And to that extent, they see themselves drawing back from the decision-making platforms. But we're encouraging that if you give the widows chance as part of the inclusivity process, that they will also contribute their own quota experience and even their own part of discussion into peace discussions, prosperity, and also development of the society.
And to show support to the widows, to tell them that they are not alone at this time. You can see they are happy. So what we do is provide support to organizations that are also doing so well to alleviate the sufferings of the widows.
They call for economic empowerment program as key components to enabling widows gain financial independence to raise their children. This is either through skill acquisition training, microfinance loans, and entrepreneurship opportunities. This initiative, if proactively implemented, they noted, will help widows support themselves and their families, as well as reduce their vulnerability to poverty and exploitation.
During the time when my husband was dead, I was so sad and I was crying. I don't know where I'm going to run into. So as I come Jack Edijat, where he come introduce me, say Dr. Juma used to help people for widows. I said, oh, please may help me take me to jail, to that place. And I thank God as I come here, when Dr. Juma, when I see her, as we are going, he empower us about 20,000 naira. So that 20,000 naira, as I reach home, I sat down and I checked, said, oh, let me go back to work when I'm doing for village before I come to this Abuja. So I can start to wave clothes. That wave clothes, when I come they wave, I thank God they bless me to take care of my child and my training them to education.
I face the challenge to train my children because my children still remain for secondary school. Some of them they have day for university. But as I come for this helpline, it make me get something to doing because of the teaching of the snacks or the soap or the many things. It make me strong. Since then, as I dey do the snatch, I fit dey do before I come here, but e increase more.
They empower me with showing machine. And before, when I get the machine, thief operate my shop, carry my tutu of my machine. But I just come, na me be first person from Buhari where they give me showing machine.
They urged international organizations and NGOs to provide critical support to funding programs, conducting research, and advocating for policy changes, raising their voice against injustice meted to widows.
Over the years, we have been campaigning against those kind of practices, where inheritance right to estate will be denied widows because they have lost their husband. They suffer together to build the wealth that they should enjoy. And their in-laws, brothers and sisters and relatives, cousins, uncles, and all that of the bereaved family, the family of the husband of the widow, should have conscience. They should rethink and know that it is evil for them to deprive widows of such an inheritance.
I know that a lot of corporate organizations have their various forms of corporate social responsibilities that they carry out, but I want to just appeal. Look for credible organizations, because sometimes when you talk to them, they'll tell you that they can't find credible organizations that they can channel their support through. So I'm saying, I'm calling them, I'm asking, I'm pleading that there are so many of them. Just look out. Through calls, through newspapers, and ask that, or through radio messages, ask who are these people, what are they doing, and then you can channel that support so that they can also help the needy and help the poor.
The consensus is that a comprehensive approach is needed across various levels to address the injustices faced by widows. The realization that everyone will die someday, they believe, is a pointer to enabling a future where widows and widowers are treated with dignity and empathy.
Indeed, it is essential to address these challenges, issues, and empower women to rebuild their lives. It is sacrosanct that we all work together to create a more just and equitable society where widows are valued, respected, and empowered to rebuild their lives with dignity. You can decide to make a difference in the life of a widow near you. One act of kindness and care can go a long way. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed and safe. I'm Lydia Sampson.